Okay, so now we see about the Lewis structures and formal charge in different molecules. Okay, here there is a perfect correlation takes place between the formal charge and Lewis structure. We can't write the formal charge of an atom without knowing the formal charge of that compound which contains that atom. Okay, now we see Lewis structure of some molecules and formal charge of atoms in that molecules. So here main importance, what is meant by Lewis structures? Here Lewis structures are known as best guessed structures. Best guessed structure, nothing but intelligently guessed structures. Okay, so now we see a simple example at first. NH3. So this providing a structure is totally different from the other concepts. So NH3. So we know that for bond formation there is only involvement of valency electrons. Now at first we count the number of valency electrons in it. In nitrogen, how many valence electrons? 5. And each hydrogen carries one electron. There is totally 8 valency electrons are present in NH3. Now, these 8 electrons are used for bond formation. We know that only valency electrons only used in the formation of bonds. So here the valence electrons are totally 8 electrons. Means with the help of that 8 electrons, we need to give the bonds in NH3. We are not giving importance to the structure. We are giving only importance to the electrons allotment. Here 8 electrons. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just we need to check that all atoms are getting inert gas configuration and the number of valence electron counting must be equal to the total valency electrons. It is not like that nitrogen is having 5 electrons, hydrogen is having 1 electron. Just forget that individual atoms electrons. Just remember 8 electrons are useful in this molecule. The electrons of nitrogen, hydrogen can be combinedly used for the formation of this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it is satisfied, the number is satisfied to the 8 valence electrons. And this hydrogen satisfied with 2 electrons, helium configuration, helium configuration, helium configuration. And this nitrogen having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 total valency, 8 electrons in it. Okay, so this is the Lewis structure of ammonia. Now we calculate the formal charge of this nitrogen in NH3. So formal charge of, so at first we read what is the formal charge? Formal charge of an atom. Okay, so what is the formal charge means? Number of valency electrons. Formal charge of an atom. Okay, we generally calculate formal charge only for an individual atom separately. The number of valency electrons of that atom minus number of non-bonded electrons minus number of bonded electrons, number of bonded electrons by 2, means number of valency electrons minus number of non-bonded electrons minus number of bonded electrons by 2. Okay, so here formal charge is, what is the definition for the formal charge is? The formal charge is a difference between the number of valency electrons of an atom in isolated state. Isolated state means separate గా, అంటే ఒక atom separate గా ఉన్నప్పుడు దాంట్లో ఎన్ని valence electrons ఉంటాయి దానికి. నెక్స్ట్ అండ్ the number of electrons allotted to it in Lewis structure. So that's why we said the formal charge of an atom is totally depends on the Lewis structure of that molecule. Okay, means what is formal charge means? The difference between the number of valence electrons of an atom in its isolated state, and normal ga how many electrons are present in it in its valency in normal state, and to the number of electrons allotted to it in Lewis structure. Lewis structure లో దానికి ఎన్ని ఎలక్ట్రాన్స్ ఉన్నాయి. అందుకే ఇప్పుడు లూయిస్ స్ట్రక్చర్ రాసేటప్పుడు ఏ ఆటమ్ సంబంధించిన ఎలక్ట్రాన్స్ ఎన్ని మనం ఫైండ్ అవుట్ చేయం. జస్ట్ వి డిస్ట్రిబ్యూట్ ద ఆల్ వాలెన్సీ ఎలక్ట్రాన్స్ టు ద ఆల్ మాలిక్యూల్స్. సో ఆ డిఫరెన్స్ మనం ఇక్కడ ఫార్మల్ చార్జ్ అంటాం. ఓకే, నౌ వి క్యాలిక్యులేట్ ద ఫార్మల్ చార్జ్ ఆఫ్ నైట్రోజన్ in ammonia. See the formal charge of nitrogen in ammonia we are calculating. The number of valency electrons, how many? The nitrogen having 5 valence electrons minus number of non-bonded electrons. There is 2 non-bonded electrons are there. Minus how many bonded electrons? 1, 2, 3 bonds consist of 6 electrons by 2. So that is equal to, mean the formal charge of nitrogen is 0 in ammonia. Now we calculate for first hydrogen. The total 3 hydrogens are there, all are having similar structure. First just we calculated for hydrogen. This is formal charge of first hydrogen. So what is the valence electrons in it? 1. Is there any unpaired, nothing but unbonded electrons are there? No unbonded electrons. It is having how many bonds? Only 1 bond. How many total electrons in it? 2 bonded electrons. So by 2. Means this hydrogen is also having 0 formal charge. So this is having 0, this will have 0, this will have 0, this will have 0. This the total formal charge general is equal to 0. Here all atoms are also having 0 formal charge. Okay, now see the other example. Okay, we are writing Lewis structure for ozone. So ozone, the number of valence electrons, each oxygen carries 6 electrons, total 18 electrons. We need to distribute that 18 electrons into these 3 oxygens. So in a distribution compulsory follow, we need to follow the octet rule. Okay, so 18 electrons, first we share it like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, sometimes direct గా మనకి పర్ఫెక్ట్ గా మ్యాచ్ అవ్వకపోవచ్చు. సో పర్ఫెక్ట్ గా మ్యాచ్ అవ్వకపోతే we need to do some changes. So here you see total valence electrons 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18 electrons, and each all are satisfying. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this group is having only 6 electrons, but whereas this group is having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10 electrons. So we need to remove this. So we can add that electrons here. Now this is satisfied with 8 electrons. This is satisfied with 8 electrons. This is also satisfied with 8 electrons. So that's why the Lewis structures are known as best gaseous structures. So for this we can write the structure of ozone like this. where one oxygen having 2 lone pairs, other has 1, other having 3 lone pairs. So it is oxygen 1, oxygen 2, oxygen 3. So now with the help of Lewis structure, we calculate the formal charge of 3 oxygens individually. So remember that the formal charge can be calculated only by writing the Lewis structure of that particular molecule. Now first is the formal charge of first oxygen. So 6 valence electrons minus how many lone pairs are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 non-bonding electrons. And how many bonding electrons? 2 bonds means 4 bonding electrons. Equal 0. Hence it has 0. Next is the calculation formal charge of second oxygen. Second oxygen 6 valence electrons. How many lone pair electrons? 2. And how many bond pairs? 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 bonds means there is a total 6 electrons are there. That is equal to 1. Now see the formal charge of third oxygen. Well, to calculate for third oxygen. So 6 valence electrons, 6 total lone pair of electrons are 6. How many bond pairs? 2 bond pairs by 1. 6 minus 1 minus 1. So you see the total formal charges are 0 plus 1 minus 1 and finally you got 0. Mean the formal charge of is equal to 0. So if the formal charge of a structure becomes 0, so that will be treated as a best structure for that molecule. ఇప్పుడు O3 కి ఇదే టైప్ ఆఫ్ స్ట్రక్చర్ కాకుండా వేరే టైప్ ఆఫ్ స్ట్రక్చర్ కూడా రావచ్చు. ఓకే, but see the O3 molecule, there is a possibility of another structure which also satisfies these 18 electrons. But in the different structures, which is the perfect structure? The structure which is having formal charge is least, that will be treated as the best structure for it. Okay, now we see the real structure and formal charge in a carbonate ion. So the carbonate ion, the number of valence electrons, carbon having 4 valency, each oxygen is having 6. So minus 2 means after gaining 2 electrons that is added to it. Here total we get 24 electrons. We need to distribute the 24 electrons to that 4 atoms. Now we try various one structure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. In this allotment, we are trying to give octet structure for all. And any atoms ki octet structure ravali. Next to 24 electrons to match all. So here we see all are having octet. So octet. This carbon is having octet. So this is treated as a Lewis structure of carbonate. Now we calculate formal charge of the carbon atom and oxygen atoms. So you see the formal charge of carbon in carbonate. What's according to the formula, number of valence electrons minus number of LPs, number of lone paired electron. There is no lone pair of electrons. My number of bonded electrons 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 bonded means there is 8 electrons are there. So finally get 0. Next is the formal charge of oxygen 1. So say it is oxygen 1. the 6 electrons, valency. How it is unpaired electrons? Sorry, how many non-bonded electrons? 4 non-bonded electrons, and there is a bond electron 4 by 2. So this is according to formula 0. Now we calculate it for second oxygen. 6 minus 6 Lp electrons, 1 bond pair means 2 by 2. Sorry. Now calculate the third oxygen, final charge of third oxygen. Here 6, and this is having a 6, 6 minus 6 minus 2 by 2. Here 6 minus 6, it is minus 1. Means this total formal charge is having 0, 0, minus 1, minus 1. This total formal charge is minus 2. Okay, so it is the structure having the least value. For example, for the 0 set, that will be better one. But in the possibility and the structure it is somewhat near to the 0. Okay, so this is the formal charge and Lewis structures, both are correlated. Okay.